Now at this time, I'd like to introduce to you your keynote speaker for the evening, and he is Mr. Wilbur H. Tate. He is from Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia, where he earned his Master's of Arts degree in Political Science. He also graduated from the University of California at Santa Barbara with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Liberal Studies, after which he followed his childhood dream of becoming a professional athlete and played for several years in Corsica, France, and Amsterdam, Holland. Soon after, he was selected by the Speaker of the House of the California State Legislature, Willie L. Brown, many of you remember him, to begin a career in California politics. He worked as a consultant for the Speaker's Office of Majority Services in Sacramento for a number of years. He was soon promoted as Special Assistant to the Speaker and ran the Speaker's Los Angeles office until the end of Willie Brown's term. In addition, Mr. Tate was the Assistant Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences at Cal State Fullerton. He was also Transportation Commissioner for the city of Pasadena. Currently, Mr. Tate is an academic advisor for the Educational Opportunity Program, also known as EOP, here at Cal State Fullerton, right down the 91 freeway. Would you put your hands together, please, for your keynote speaker, Mr. Wilbur Tate.
All right. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And congratulations to the graduates of 2014 in the house! Soon to be out of the house! Yes. Soon to be out of the house. I want to give my thanks to Mrs. Woods and Pastor Johnson for making this all possible to be here today, because without their help and sacrifices, we wouldn't be here at this time, this place, this moment. And I would also like to thank the founder of the AME Church, Brother Richard Allens, for creating such a strong foundation and for truly setting the record straight. And please, if you wouldn't mind, with all the parents, guardians, friends, extended family members of our graduates, please stand. Please stand. Let's give them all a real round of applause. If it were not for their support and guidance, we would not be here at this spot today. Let me give thanks to them all. They were and they are the cornerstone of your success. I am very humbled and honored to be here this evening. This is a time of celebration. It's a time in your life that you will never, ever forget. I remember my grad night. I don't know if you guys still have the grad nights at Disneyland and whatnot. We turned Disneyland out. We had Mickey Mouse with an afro wig. We stood down for Louis days, wearing a black shirt with a black power salute on it, and we had such a blast. Most of you, with the help of Almighty God, will be attending a college or university. And when you do, please check that box on the application for EOP or SSS. I work for the EOP program, which stands for the Educational Opportunity Program. We mainly service first generation and low-income students, and we're a retention program, and we help to get you through college successfully. We work with the whole student, not just with GPAs, with the whole students. We have tutoring, advisement, one-on-one. We're an advocate for you for financial aid and admissions and records. And we also have a grant component of $800, $400 each semester. We're trying to get that increased. So be sure when you mark your box, be sure when you do your application, mark your box for EOP or SSS. SSS stands for Student Support Services. Both these programs started way back in the 60s during the civil rights legislation that was signed by the LBJ with Martin Luther King in the background. You might have seen that legislation where Martin Luther King smiling. That was the Voting Rights Act. But in there, we had a higher education component, starting with Head Start for preschool. And now we have EOP as the higher education component. Secondly, as I mentioned, please take full advantage of all your retention programs, tutoring services, teacher certification programs, mentoring programs, career center, as well as your African American resource centers. It's very, very important. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just share with you briefly 7 steps of success. They're not really mine, but they came out of Clark Atlanta University, my alma mater, and you can always Google this. It's called 7 Steps for Success. Number 1, schedule your time effectively. Create a weekly schedule with classes, meals, homework, free time, and sleep. Plan to study 2 to 3 hours for every 1 hour class. That's 2 to 3 hours for every 1 hour class. Make sure you plan time for fun and relaxations. Now, not too much fun, not too much relaxation. And please don't join a fraternity or sorority your first semester. Wait until at least you're at the end of your sophomore year, right before you become a junior. That is most important. And 3rd, seek out help for improvement for your grades. We have at Cal State Fullerton a Male Success Initiative program, but all through the Cal States and UCs, there's tutoring service at all the schools, so please make full use of that. Get energized, eat, exercise, and sleep, because they say you're going to gain 20 pounds your first semester. So yeah, be sure you exercise and eat. Go to class prepared and take thorough notes. Do not miss class. Do not use somebody else's notes, because that won't help you. Use your own notes. Location, location, location. Be sure you study at the same location. You might need a study buddy. You might need a special occasion like a classroom, library, or empty classroom, but be sure it's in a safe location, all right? And number 7, be smart. Do not lose marks or points for test writing errors. There's different strategies for different tests, multiple choice, as opposed to essays. So use all those strategies. And I put down the 8th one, enroll into a Foundation for Success course. At Cal State Fullerton, they're called University 100 classes. This helps you. I know when I was an athlete, I didn't want to partake in this, but it will help you. It'll help you with your test writing, your test taking, time management, writing college papers, all the stuff that I didn't want to do, but it really set the foundation for you to become an excellent student. So make sure you take full advantage of that. Now, I hope 100% of you here today will be attending and enrolling to a college or university of higher learning. If you happen to be enrolling to a local community college, please make sure that you're on the right track to transfer into a Cal State or UC or private institution of higher education. It's not just enough to receive your AA degree, but you must be guided to the right direction within that particular AA degree program track. Back in the day when I was in community college, first of all, it was free. Yes, it was free. You just had to pay for your books. But now you have to be guided in a certain track within your AA program to transfer to Claremont College, UCSB, Cal State Fullerton. So it's not just good enough to receive your AA degree. And if you need help or assistance with your college, university application, we can help you. Please just ask or call your university admissions counselors and or outreach offices at that particular campus that you will be attending. Continue to make sure that you're following your deadlines for completion of your FAFSA application, that's your federal student aid application. Don't miss that deadline, or else you're subject to losing thousands of dollars, in fact, up to $5,000. Now, moving forward and not backwards. As African Americans, we have a special responsibility to our families and our black communities, both at home and abroad overseas. We must begin to re-educate ourselves in order to achieve the greatness that was stolen during slavery. A friend of mine, Dr. Parham, who is the vice chancellor at UC Irvine, came to Cal State Fullerton to address our students. I'm going to just borrow a phrase from what he had mentioned. He posed the question that I ask you here today. Does everyone know who Carter G. Woodson is? Who does not know who Carter J. Woodson is? Don't be ashamed. Who does not? Raise your hand. It's all right. It's not your fault. Carter G. Woodson is a brother that gave us Black History Month. He's an historian, educator, writer, activist, teacher, and the list goes on. He wrote a scholarly book back in 1933 during the Depressions, and of course right now we're in a recession. But he wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. Some of you music lovers might have heard of the album or CD or an iPod song entitled The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I guess that's old school now, huh? I think she's playing at the Nokia Theater coming up very soon. Yeah, go check that out. Yeah, she happened to borrow that particular title from Mr. Carter. Everyone here today should have read or perhaps own a copy of the writings of Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. Mr. Carter mentioned throughout his book that we as African Americans, that goes for Latinos and Native Americans too. And I want to give a shout out to all the Latinos and Native Americans. If it wasn't for Native Americans, a lot of us would not be alive here today. We had to live amongst the Native Americans. You know the Seminoles, you know that story. I hope you do. If not, research it and re-educate yourself and know the truth. That's why we got a lot of Native American blood in our blood. We even became chiefs within their nation. So let's give them a shot, give them a help out too. Yes. But one of the quotes in Mr. Carter's book, The Miseducation of the Negro, and I will quote him. He says, if you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his action. When you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. If you can make a man feel that he is inferior, you do not have to compel him to accept an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. If you make a man feel that he is justly an outcast, you don't have to order him to the back door or the back of the bus. He will go without being told. And if there's no back door, his very nature will demand one. That's why it's essential that we know our history and know that we have a great, outstanding history. If it wasn't for our history, our African history, America wouldn't even be in existence. In addition, just to clarify after that statement, our Apostle Paul mentioned in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2. He says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. It is imperative that as African Americans and people of color, without a doubt, begin to remove the shackles that bind our mind. Remove those shackles from our mind. So let's begin to take advantage of the Apostle Paul and Brother Carter G. Woodson and begin to enlighten ourselves with a new mind and a new knowledge about us as God's chosen people. Reclaim what was stolen or lost. It all begins with our mind. Later in your college experience, please take time to participate in your university study abroad programs. I didn't have the chance to participate in that, but I lived in France, Holland, Spain, and Brussels, Belgium. I'm not going to tell you about all my experiences. The one when I lived in Corsica, France, and Google Corsica, C-O-R-S-I-C-A, and Google the national flag. You'll see a black man's face. Well, I just happened to be living and working in Corsica, playing professional basketball, living next door to this Catholic church. And one of the older sisters, a white European, told me, black Jesus, black Jesus. I felt real proud, Doc. Black Jesus, what you talking about? Black Jesus in the church. No, there's nothing but white people here. But in that church, and you can Google Corsica, Black Christ, in that church was all these white people was a statue of the Black Christ. And I was only 20 years old. That was a long time ago, so this is new to me. I thought I had discovered a new continent. I did. There was a Black Christ figure, and all these Europeans were paying homage to the Black Christ. That figure, the Black Christ, was found floating in the Mediterranean Sea in the 1300s, and some fishermen pulled it out. I Googled the photo to Pastor Johnson of myself standing next to our Lord and Savior, the Black Christ. Oh yeah. So I'm here to tell you, when you travel around the world or go different places, you're gonna learn so much. So take full advantage of these programs. And just briefly, when I was in Brazil playing basketball, I was on the Missouri Valley All-Star team, I'm proud to say. Second freshman next to Oscar Robinson. Time we had Louisville, Memphis State, Drake Bradley, and I was there too, I was very proud. But anyway, so I was in Brazil, I don't know how much time, and I went to the bank, and this is before the Depression recession here in this country. All these people couldn't get in the bank. To make a long story short, the owner of the bank came on, "Hey American, no money today." I said, "What do you mean no money today?" He put out a $1,000 note. He said, "Light it." I said, $1,000 note? So I lit his $1,000 note. He took the $1,000, put it up to a cigar. Money gone. I said, "What do you mean money gone?" "Money's fake gold." So I remember right there what he said. Money is fake. And he couldn't speak English, speaks Portuguese. He grabbed some dirt. He said, "This is real. The gold on your neck is real. Money fake." So I'm here to tell you that money you chasing is just fake. It's imitation. It's just not real. You better invest in something that's real. In the book of Luke it tells you. But you better invest in something real that you can hold on to, substantial. You collect dollars, it'll change overnight. So I'll finish that story. So the people in Brazil were very upset about the bank's closing, so they kept all their money in their bed, in their mattresses, all that stuff. And you know what they did? They changed the currency overnight, so all that money they had saved was just worth a bunch of nothing. But nothing. And that went on for a week. But I left them back to the States. Okay, let me go on. It's a true story. And secondly, in Brazil, when I got off the plane, they don't tell you about this. When you get off the plane, I'm looking for, I'm thinking I'm in California, I'm looking for white folks. All I saw was blackness. You had to search to see somebody white. I'm like, what? I didn't learn this in high school. I didn't learn about this. Oh yeah, Brazil is offering crack-a-lackin'. It's beautiful. I would have known that I didn't travel. There are no... My wife is here. I was a young man. There are no ugly people in Brazil. Everybody was beautiful. But let me go on. So let's not fear, also, let's not fear science. Science is in your DNA. Some of us here have heard and read about the multi-genius Imhotep, the creator of the first ever step pyramid in the whole world. He was also a physician. He also created what we call today the Hippocratic Oath, what doctors take in order to become a doctor. They put the hand on the Bible and take an oath. I shall do right unto medicine. I shall pass my knowledge on to my patient. They're supposed to share knowledge on how to heal yourself. This came from Imhotep, the oath that they use today. He's also known as the father of modern medicine. So before you become a doctor today, you must take that oath. The Greeks even praised him and made him a god and constructed statues to honor him. This is your black ancestor. Even the great Socrates, you heard of Socrates, he studied under Imhotep. Imhotep said, well, you're a good student. I'm going to give you the name of Socratia. So Socrates' name came from your black grandfather who named him Socratia. You have thousands of pyramids throughout Africa and Sudan. I didn't know this until you experienced it. Thousands of pyramids, not just the city of Monroe. You can Google that, see for yourself. We didn't live in any caves. We had beautiful structures. Even the structures you see in Greece came from Africa. We had them first. We must know that. Brothers and sisters, math is in your blood, so please don't fear it, embrace it. The Western science and technology still has not discovered how you built the pyramids and constructed them to perfection. Every time you see LeBron James or Michael Jordan doing a 360-degree slam dunk, that's a mathematical equation coming to real life form. I can't do it now, but when I was young, I used to time my steps, see how far I had to jump in the air, how I'm going to hold my breath and tuck to spin myself between time and space in order to get to the goal. turn around 360-degree time, and then turn oppositely to duck, put a ball through a round cylinder as I'm traveling 80 miles through the air. And the answer to the equation is when the ball hits the bottom of the floor and bounces up. That's a real life equation. You're so bad, you just think it and dream it and do it. So now what we have to do, we have to slow your thoughts down and be able to translate that now on paper. Now I took this steps times this, at this physics, this angle. So that's what we have to do, learn how to break that down. We're in a unique position here in North America. Our black and brown sisters have access to our culture and technology. We, the people of color in this country, must make full use of the newly found technology and culture in order to bring about liberation and mobilization to unite our brothers and sisters both at home and abroad. As I previously mentioned, some of the best learning experiences will be living overseas. And please know when it's safe. This is prior to 9/11 when I attended. The powers that fight against you are scared to death, scared that the black man or woman might one day find out who you really are. You're truly creating God's own image. God looks just like you. The Bible tells you so, and so do the hieroglyphs in Egypt, even back in Sudan. When you go to Africa, the land of Kush, this is not a fantasy world, this is true. Some scholars, perhaps some European scholars might tell you, well, this used to be over here, or no, I think it was over here, or maybe it was back here. But if I had the money, I could take you today to show you exactly that your knowledge still exists today. I can show you that you developed the alphabet. It's still there for you to see and touch, right there. It's not anything, it's not an imagination, it's there. And hopefully one day, when things are safe, you can go visit. Learn about Queen Mott. Google Queen Mott. Queen Mott, Google that, M-A-A-T. When you Google it, you'll see a feather. Her feather stands for truth. And you'll see her handing a scale of justice. The same scale you see in the courtroom is what your black mama thought of 5,000 years before there was a Christ. The scale of justice. She thought of that. A black woman thought of that, Queen Mott. And she also had 42 negative confessions, which were not just 10 commandments, but your black mama had 42 of them. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. This is 4,500 years before Abraham. Abraham's father of the Bible, 4,500 years before that, the black woman ruled, Queen Mott. You ought to Google her. And later on, the Greeks praised her as a god. She didn't praise herself as a god. The Greeks did and made statues of this black woman, Queen Mott. You have to know and realize that you come from greatness. And as I close today, I'd just like to add that we as black people have to begin to love ourselves. We don't do that. We have to love ourselves. But before I get into that, I'd just like to tell you a few references that I use today, and you can check it out for yourself. I'll go back to about loving myself. The Nile Valley, Contribution to Civilization by Dr. John Henry Clark. Get that book, The Nile Valley and Contributions to Civilizations, Dr. John Henry Clark. Number 2, African Mothers of Western Civilization. African Mother of Western Civilization, Dr. Ben Jochannan, spelled J-O-C-H-A-N-N-A-N, Dr. Ben Jochannan. He's currently sick in the hospital right now in Harlem. He's 93 years old. And another book by Dr. Ben Jochannan, Black Man on the Nile. Fourthly, The Miseducation of the Negro, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who also graduated from Harvard in 1912. He's known as the father of black history. He was the second one from Harvard to receive his PhD. W.E.B. Du Bois was the first. W. Du Bois taught at my school, Parkland University. He founded the School of Social Work. And last but not least, The African Origin of Civilization by Dr. Sheikh Anna Duwop. Dr. Sheikh, C-H-E-I-K-H, C-H-E-I-K-H, Anta, A-N-T-A, Diop, D-I-O-P. He published the writings in 1967. He's known as the carbon scientist. You heard of your carbon footprint? Well, that came from Dr. Diop in 1967. He was the one who discovered that Africans were the original people on Earth. So now for my final words, as I mentioned, we as people must learn to love ourselves, respect ourselves. I'm speaking to all the graduates, especially our African American men. I'm speaking to you, we've got to love ourselves. Before you can love anyone, you must begin to cherish and love who you are. Once you come to the realization of your magnificent history and greatness, you will then begin to develop a greater love of self and your people and your beloved African woman. We must, as Black people, we are in God's own creation. We are exact image of God. That there's enough to get you over. Paradise was created alongside the Nile Valley in Africa, where you had resided and lived from the very beginning of time. So remember who you are, and also every 6 months do a self-assessment of where you are now and where you need to be. So may God bless you and keep you, and thank you for your time this evening. One love.